If you want your compositions on a DAW to sound better, it's not just about getting better libraries. It's also about knowing your libraries really well, just the way you would know a normal instrument. Hi, this is Sam. Oh, by the way, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already to get more videos like this. So, today I want to talk about upping your game to make your instruments sound better when you work on a DAW. This is actually quite an important step that a lot of people forget. Hey, and make sure to stick around for this video because I think you'll find the tips really helpful, especially the one about getting out ideas much faster. So, let's get going. So, let's say you just bought this new steaming hot, amazing library, and maybe you have saved up for it and you're quite happy about getting it. Now, chances are actually that you will just buy that library and then pile it on all the other new plugins and libraries you have bought. That happens quite a lot. Just by acquiring that library, we feel like we have accomplished something. But what you have to do is to actually capture that moment immediately and start working with your library and not just forget about it. This will also stop frustration later. Because when you have a library and you don't really know how it works, you don't have it set up, chances are you will get bogged down with technicalities instead of getting creative and get your ideas out. So the first thing you want to do when you get your library is to just play with it, to have fun. I mean, just enjoy the fact that you got this new amazing library. But try to be a little bit more crazy. Try extreme ranges. What can I do? What happens if I just press all the keys at the same time? What are the lowest notes? What are the highest ones? Just have fun. Don't get into many technicalities. Just check out what's possible. Take note of what your library actually can do. This is excellent for later work, so that when you know your song, you don't want to search through all your hundreds of libraries and patches to find that particular sound. You know that that patch does that job well. Let's look at an example here. I have this library, East and West Hollywood Library, and obviously it has tons of patches. It would take all day to go through them today, but let's look at the differences between runs. It's got a few different options here, and I wanted to know more specifically what you can do with the different runs. If I just hold down the key, sounds like that. If I play a simple run myself, sounds pretty good. Let's try the next one here. It's slur runs, hold down a note. Well, that's a long note. Let's see what it sounds like if I play it. More difficult to get that one to sound good when I play it immediately. And the third one, spick run, if I hold down a note, is just a short note and playing it by itself. Sounds a little bit more like it's a spiccato run, that you can hear each individual notes more clearly. Okay, well, in fact, playing a run is just nearly impossible to get done well. I was lucky there. It's much better to program it in, and you do that by going to the key editor and just use step input. It's a little bit different depending on what DAW you have, but most DAWs has it. And then you just basically play slowly what you want to do. Let's see what that sounds like. So that sounds really nice to me. I'm noticing here also that it doesn't seem to matter what kind of velocity I have. So this one I have to control with the expression fader. Like that, if I want to. So I can't do it with the velocity. I actually prefer it most of the time to be that way. So it's good for me to know. I like this one. It sounds good. It sounds smooth. But let's try the next one here. We can just basically drag this one over here and see what that sounds like immediately. Sounds a little bit different. It sounds actually more to me like each note is heard. It's pretty smooth still, but I feel like I can hear some of the notes more. How about if we do more of a figure? Okay, sounds weird when you just play it, but together. Okay. So the velocity here is not affected as well. Let's try different speeds if we slow it down a little bit. I wouldn't say that works really well for this kind of runs. It seems like it's better to just do notes that are close to each other. Let's try a chromatic one. Let's try that. So in this run, it sounds very, very smooth. So maybe it's better for chromatic and perhaps scale runs to make it sound smoother. You don't hear each individual notes that much. Yeah, so very good for chromatics. So I could note that. Let's try the spic run smooth, and that means spiccato. So that would mean you would hear each note a little bit more clear. It wouldn't be so smooth. Okay. Okay, so here you clearly hear that there's, it's a spiccato actually, not a staccato, but each note is more heard. It's not a smooth run. So if you want each note to be heard, maybe you have fast played melodies, then maybe this kind of run would be way better. So let's try a different figure here. Okay, so I hear now that it does matter, the velocity here. It makes it different. Let's try that. So this is excellent. This is an excellent patch for playing more advanced figures and to also have different dynamics to mark different notes. Okay, so just by playing around a little bit, I learned the difference between these different runs of this library. You might only have one in yours, but it's still good to check out what you actually can do and how to play it. Another very important step is to set it up so that it starts the way you want it. When you load the patch, you want that specific sound to start. You want all your controllers to be matched correctly. So actually go through all your patches and save them the way you want to. For example, I save my patches to always start with a certain volume. I save them in a way that my key switches are matched perfectly to my controller, so I always know where they are. I make sure that my faders are connected correctly. And sometimes I even create templates so that when I start a certain library, there might be several libraries that I want in this patch. Create a song with your library and just that library. Now, if it's an orchestral patch, just use a lot of instruments. Just really try to create something short. If it's a solo instrument, still use several parts to create a song, because that way you will try to do things with the instrument that you haven't thought of. This is a great way to really know your library better and probably will make you creative and come up with new material. So the bonus tip, and this might seem really simple, but please try it and see what happens. What I mean is, instead of just trying ideas with your keyboard, which is okay, sing your ideas. Now it's like, okay, whatever, I can't sing. Well, it doesn't really matter if you sing that well, because you're the only one who's listening to it, and then you try to create melodies out of that. Why? Well, even if you're a really good piano player, you have a tendency to only play certain keys in a certain physical way. That means that you're limiting yourself to what you can actually do and your ideas. So instead, think of a melody and sing it out, and then try to actually recreate that singing. It's also good because your ideas will come out much, much, much faster. Sometimes when we sit there and try a melody on the piano, we have a tendency to, I didn't do that right, and I have to replay it, and you get bogged down with technicalities. When you sing, you instantly sing what you hear in your head. I'll show you what I mean. Let's look at how I set up a new library and how I play with it a little bit. So, for example, let's open it up. Here's a violin in my Cinematic Studio Solo Strings, which is an excellent library. You can see here different key switches that you can use. Now, it's already marked here on the keyboard, but sometimes that's kind of hard to find. It's like, what key is this? And you have to check. So what I do is that I use a controller like this, and I have marked different things. So if I press here, you can see I select different things. And I haven't just, put them in this order. I put it in the order that I find it's logical. I don't have to look here all the time. What am I doing? I can actually close this whole thing. I've also set up my faders so that it works the way I want it. An expression one. Sometimes the way the instrument is set up from the start is totally fine. But I find in most cases, I do want to change it so that it matches my controllers and the way I think. Okay, now let's try to write something with this. And I'm sorry if my voice sounds awful today, but I would sing a melody. Maybe, let's see. Da 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 da. Okay, nothing super difficult, just interesting. Let's see. Okay, so maybe that wasn't the key that I normally play, and maybe it wasn't the melody that I normally come up with when I use the piano. That's the good thing. And also, I have it already. I know what I want to do. I'm not sitting here trying. I just, okay, that's the melody I'm going to try. I encourage you to actually immediately try to recreate that. Don't think too much if it's a good sound or not. Just try to recreate the first idea that come up in your mind. So let's try to record that. Okay, all right, very good. So one thing I'm noticing here is that this library does need a little bit of pre-play so that the sound comes a little bit before, or the trigger come a little bit before so that a legato is triggered. Let's see if that was better. Also, I think that I want all these to have the same velocities. Yeah, because in this library, I'm noticing that depending on how hard I hit the keys, the slower or the faster is the transition, like, or, and also how hard I hit the first key is important, depending if I want a soft or hard attack. Okay, so let's see. I usually start with a cello. Dun, 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 dun. That would be a good bass line there. So maybe if I try... Because you have to trust me on that one. I didn't sing that one, I'm sorry. But the melody is the most important. And then you follow that. And I couldn't sing that low. So let's see if I can record this. Okay. You know what? I hear immediately that's way too fast for me. So I'm going to slow down. Isn't that good? Yep. Okay, all right. Let's see what we can do with the violin. So, how about... da dee dee da da dee dee da 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 da. Let's try the violas. Da 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 dum da dum bum. Okay, the cello disappears for some reason dynamically. We have to, I don't know what's going on here. We'll try that again. Okay, so maybe it's not the greatest piece. It doesn't matter. What you're doing here is that you are training your brain to come up with melodies fast. I'm telling you, this is key. Sing your melodies. Nobody needs to hear you. It doesn't have to sound good. It's the idea, all right? Then you work towards that idea rather than trying to fill it out on your keyboard. You could try this with the other patches. I mean, we haven't tried all the other sounds here that we have. Okay, so let's try the same melody just to speed it up a little bit. Voila. Well, I did sort of a cooking show here, so you don't have to get too tired of me. Let's see what this sounds like if I'm using spiccato and staccato samples instead. And this way you also learn the attacks. It seems like in these samples, the staccato is pretty much on the beat, but I noticed the legatos, they need to be a little bit ahead in order to get those beginning samples sound good. I also found out that the cello, or all of them actually, they have quite a fun patch that makes double writing a lot easier. Listen to this. So I'm not playing pop, pop, pop. I'm just playing bum, 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 like that. Nice singing, Samuel. So it has a patch for that. So what I've learned, yes, I've learned how the attacks work. I learned how the dynamics work. I've set up my controllers to match everything I do. And this makes it a lot easier in the future when I want to write with this again. Now, go out and learn your libraries. If you have a new one, no problem, have fun. But there might be a chance you have a few old ones lying about that you don't use anymore because they don't inspire you. Well, maybe the library is not that good, or maybe you just haven't learned how it works. When you learn the library really well, it will make you creative. You will think, I can use that. And it will be a lot easier later on when you try to recreate the ideas that you're hearing. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. That would help me a lot. Thank you very much. I hope to see you soon.